Well, welcome to this first podcast by Kaci. This is my colleague Nadia, and my name's Markku, and we're delighted to be your host. So, how are you doing, Nadia?
So far, so good. First podcast. Excited about it.
That's great. Well, we're looking at talking about our work with Kaci, which is around fundraising, organizational growth, and leadership development. What parts of that connects to you, Nadia?
Yeah, well, I've spent most of my adult life in nonprofit slash church work. Started a nonprofit when I was 23, young and dumb and passionate, and have spent, the last 25 years either leading or directing nonprofits. And so for me, I know the ins and outs. I know the struggles of being passionate about something, but not having the money to do it. And so it's fun to be on the other side of it where I can walk alongside and kind of share both my lived experience and hopefully some encouragement to help people in their passions and ministry and organization. So, yeah, it's been a good fit for me. I'm happy to be on this side of it now.
When you were starting a nonprofit at 23, like as you think back to that time, what are the things that you learned from then that still are with you? I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the biggest lessons was surround yourself with good people, find the right mentors and voices to both encourage you and to push you further. I learned that networking, despite being a shy introvert, is super important. You have to be in the room with the right people and learn to invite people into the work instead of selling it. Invitation is key. Yeah, and I think there's a blessing in being young and not knowing what's ahead of you to starting. So, I don't recommend it for everyone, but it was good for me.
I can say the same that I helped start a nonprofit in my early 30s, like I think I was 31 or 32. And it's just, there was something beautiful about being so naive. Uh,
For
and
sure.
and that it was, maybe now I wouldn't step out on that limb and
Mhm.
take the risks that we took in the startup mode. But I still love startups. I love coming alongside startups, and I think I learned so much. I ended up being in a leadership role with that nonprofit for 17 years, and then stepping into other leadership roles. So, like you, I have about 25 years of nonprofit leadership that I've been blessed to have, and also experienced both the ups and downs of all the challenges of that.
Yeah.
And I would have to say that sometimes there's some sleepless nights in the midst of that. I don't know. Did you have sleepless nights?
We had sleepless nights because we were working other jobs to make sure the nonprofit would help. So it's not only just about, doing the work, but yeah, sleepless nights. I think when you're in leadership, there's a lot resting on you. You're responsible for a lot and you feel that. I think when you're empathetic and you're passionate about something, our nonprofit work was around children and youth in inner cities. So working to get them the educational advantages they deserved. And so, just hard stories. And you take that home with you every time. It motivates you and acts as a catalyst. But there's a lot of responsibility when you've got to make payroll and you've got to keep the lights on and you got to make all their stakeholders happy. So, yeah. What about you? What gave you sleepless nights?
To be honest, it was usually funding crunches. Um,
Yeah.
so, so I mean, kind of, the nonprofit dream for me was always to live with like, let's have 6 months in the bank. Like, could we ever get to that? That would be like an amazing dream. 6 months of cash. And to be honest, like for most of my career, it's been like 2 months of cash in the bank.
Yeah.
And
Same. Maybe.
yeah, and that's been stressful. So I think it's that background and the, like carrying the stress of that. And I think as nonprofit leaders, often we don't have management training, we don't have leadership training, but we come in with like passion and and compassion and, wanting to work hard and bring about change in the world and people's lives and for the planet. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot that I could have benefited from by having somebody come alongside me more often in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have people come alongside you in your leadership?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we worked in communities, particularly locally here in East Van. And our first board was a bunch of business people who knew how to run a business, but maybe not so much how a nonprofit would run. So, we got some good feedback from them, but the real heart and the real ministry people came from the community. So a couple of different pastors, a couple of different other nonprofit leaders kind of came alongside and said, yeah, we see this in you. We see this potential. We see this growth. We see these leadership attributes. So you should, just lean into that. And I think without those voices, I probably would have given up, year 2 or 3, because it's kind of thankless work sometimes being a nonprofit leader. And so they were really helpful. In terms of that. So what about you? Who was speaking into Markku and making sure you're headed down the right path?
Well, I always looked for help. Like I think they were a little amused by me because I would come along and say, I need your help. I was never scared about asking for help. And I think people obliged me because they saw the passion and also like, oh, I just need to give him a little bit of advice and it's going to go a long ways. But one of the key people was around fundraising, and this person asked me really hard questions. I remember one time I was kind of doing all these somersaults about fundraising. Like, I think I'll run a marathon and then ask people to support me. He's like, oh, interesting. What? Why couldn't you just ask them for money? Like, why do you have to run a
Right.
marathon?
Why do you have to do something?
It's going to be easier. So, well, is it? And what I think he said to me, I think that's more about like your relationship to money than the donor. Like
Mm,
the donor doesn't need that, do they? But it seems that it'll be easier for you to do that. So what is it about your relationship to money that is making it hard for you to ask? So I would just say that it's not always the help wasn't always easy. It was it was beneficial, but it wasn't always easy because you had to kind of look into your own heart and work out some of these hard questions. Did you have hard
right.
questions coming to you?
I think one of the biggest lessons we learned was the gap between expectation and reality. You know, we came into ministry and into creating a nonprofit thinking we knew, okay, we learned a model elsewhere, we're going to implement it here. And it didn't go as smoothly as we thought it was. And we had a board member who was a therapist, and she said, there's expectations and there's reality, and the gap in between is pain. And so your job is to manage the gap. So try to align your expectations and reality, and you'll move the needle forward a bit more. And that was true both with the programs that we were running and with fundraising. We expected people would just hand us money because we were doing this really cool thing, and the reality was no one was handing 23-year-olds a bunch of money to work in the inner city. And so, it's this constant shifting of reality and expectations, trying to minimize that pain gap as much as we could. And that's something I sort of carried all the way through my work, is like, okay, let's manage that gap. So
And would you say this is true of like all the different sectors that you've worked in, like some of that? And maybe we could start by, before you answer that, naming some of the different sectors we've worked in. So I've worked in environmental sector, mental health sector, social services or humanitarian, and the community development sector.
yeah, so I've worked in the children and youth sector. I've worked in global development, and I've worked within the sort of religious institution sector, the churches. They all have a common thread line where you're kind of just working with really great humans, and often in the help social services place, but in every sector, there's different realities and different expectations. And so the constant need to pivot and to be nimble and to be flexible, that was something I really learned quite quickly. Yeah. And I think, like you, the diversity in our experiences sort of give us a more robust outlook on our clients and the different organizations we work with. And so, I think one of the most interesting stories is how diverse both you and I, we have some commonalities, and we've crossed paths. You and I have crossed paths before we worked together.
Yeah.
We crossed paths a few times in the last couple decades. And so, but not until we came to KC did we kind of align and start moving together. So, it'd be great for you to share a little bit about why you even started KC after having all of these different experiences. Like, why KC then?
Yeah. Well, I think in a way, our conversation about the different sectors that we've worked in and our own leadership roles really does lead into that. I think I, for a long time, felt when I was in leadership roles that I wish I would just have somebody to come alongside me and help me in these like different areas where I felt like I didn't really have the expertise. I had the passion, but for example, areas that I really could have used more help in is fundraising, strategic planning, and sort of like foresight, and then leadership development. What I mean by that is not just my own leadership development, but developing other people, their leadership capacity. So I think that's, if there's one thing we do that I would articulate is that we come alongside nonprofits to help them with fundraising, strategic planning, and leadership development. So that's, in a nutshell, why KC exists. What's been your experience about KC, and how's that fit? You've been talking about that in some ways, but what particularly fits for you?
Yeah. Fundraising has always been sort of a bugaboo for me. Like I hated it when I was, a nonprofit leader. I would try to pass it off as much as possible. I didn't like doing it. I'd rather be doing the work than doing the fundraising. So I remember when you approached me and said, "Hey, this is what we're about. Do you want to join in?" I'm like, I am not good at any of this stuff. But thankfully, you're a persistent fellow. And I think sort of where I come in a little bit more is the organizational strategy and org efficiencies. And that's the part that I love. I love coming into a nonprofit and kind of saying, okay, we're coming in to help you fundraise, but fundraising doesn't exist in this silo. It's part of an ecosystem of your whole organization. So let's look at the whole organization and sort of tease apart where we can be more efficient, where there are some gaps, where there are what I often call tender spots, and how do we minimize those so that you can excel and you're freed up to do the work you want to do. And so, we make a good team. I think sometimes I kind of do. You're kind of the vision caster, and you know where the bus is going, and I'm kind of like the wheels on the bus. I'm going to help us get there. And so, yeah, it's been, for me, KC has been an unexpected path, but like a really fulfilling path, because now I get to meet all these different people in all these different places doing amazing work. And we are just like, hey, let's join you for a season, or let's join you for a while, and let's see where we can go with this.
I love that. And you keep talking about that we're walking with our clients, other nonprofit leaders. That's different than walking for them or at them, or so there is this journey around empowerment. And you also said a season. So I like that we come alongside our clients for a season, for however long that's needed. Sometimes it's a short 12 months. Sometimes it's a longer 4 years. And that's sort of how we're structured. So that's probably a couple of ways that we work with our clients, is scaling and building trust over a long period of time and helping an organization grow. And then the other shorter sprints are campaigns, where we've run fundraising campaigns. But Nadia, tell us a little bit about, sometimes when we ask leaders about their fundraising plan and what they need help with, we realize that actually maybe we should start further back. and ask about
Right.
strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, top of the mind of any ED or CEO of a nonprofit is, do I have money in the bank? Like you said, do I have 6 months? Do I have 2 months? And they're so focused on getting those dollars in the door. It's kind of, they work in a very reactive sort of way instead of what you're saying, more strategic, proactive way. So often when we come in, they're already sort of at a crisis point or they're at a tipping point. And when we say, okay, so what's your plan for the next 3 years in terms of your organization, in terms of scaling, in terms of communication, we often kind of get this like deer in headlights look like, I don't know, I'm just trying to keep everything going. And I think sometimes we force our clients to slow down and to sit back and look, they're so in the weeds, right? When you're in it, you're so in it. And we kind of ask them to step back and we can provide this sort of objective perspective. It's like, let's look at the whole thing. Let's look at this whole ecosystem and see what's going on and the direction you're going. And are you going in too many different directions? Do we need to maybe get you to focus in? And so often we come in and kind of say, let's just sit down and take a pause and look. And, one of our clients who we've been walking with for a while, one of his first things he said to us is, I hate strategic planning, because everybody thinks, okay, we're going to do all this work to strategic plan, then it's going to sit on a shelf and we're never going to touch it again. And we kind of come in with, hey, no, this is like a living, breathing, activated plan that we're checking in on every week to make sure we're going on the same path. So I think sometimes we can bring a little bit more focus, and out of that focus is this expansive way of then fundraising, because I think it just changes perspective.
Yeah, the fund, like when you fundraise on a very clear vision and strategy organizationally, wow, that's so much easier for the leaders, and then they start to make the connections. So our friend that you're talking about, like he's just kind of run in, and he loves the strategic planning now. I'm not sure if you'd say he loves it, but he appreciates it.
Yeah, 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 and he makes space for it now. Like it is part of our rhythm together. Always checking in, setting quarterly goals, setting yearly goals, and always measuring up against it to make sure that we're aligned. And I think that's that rhythm part that we can bring to an organization, that steady rhythm, that steady heartbeat, where it's like we're always just consistent and not kind of often a lot of different directions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think in that case, we've seen, we did that strategy work, organizational strategy, and implementing a strategic framework, and then fundraised from that perspective. And we've, over the last 3 years, seen that organization double their revenues. But what we find is that like over a 3-year period, that you hit a plateau, and then it's sort of time again to re-envision what the next 3 years looks like and pivot. And I think that happens. I mean, we have external context, internal context, and new opportunities. There's new threats, particularly in this dynamic that's happening currently. So being thoughtful, strategic, nimble, I like that word that you used, is really important in this season.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got clients that we scale for impact long term, and then we have these campaigns, which are a bit faster, for lack of a better word. It's a little bit, scaling it's a bit of a grind. There's commitment, there's strategic planning, but campaign, we come in, orgs want to raise a certain amount of money. Tell us a little bit about what a campaign looks like from our end and from their end.
Well, if the scaling is like running the mile race or the 10K race, the campaign is a bit more like a 200-meter dash. Not maybe 100 meters, but 200 meters, because it's not super short, but it's not long. And, in 12 months, you're raising a significant amount of cash. And the effort behind it's all in. Like the organization, the board has to be all in, the team needs to be all in. And usually our campaigns take anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And that the reason you need a bit of extra time is that 18 months is just to build the buy-in and align everybody so that you're ready to go. And usually it's done in phases, so that campaign, it's not public for the whole time. It might only be public for 3 to 6 months, but there's a lot of legwork that's happening before in advance. So yeah, so they are kind of intense, more like the sprint, and have pretty clear outcomes, and they're hard work, and they might not always go exactly to plan, but they raise a significant amount of cash. So when I say that is like every campaign has its personality, has its sort of dips and rises, and you have to kind of innovate and adapt along the way. So, but there is
Which is your favorite? Which is your favorite, the campaign or the scaling?
I like.
Be honest here. Be honest.
Be honest. Be honest. I like campaigns.
Yeah.
I like campaigns just because they're the ROI on those, like the ROI we provide. Well, in both we provide significant ROI, but on a campaign where it's a short window, the ROI we provide for clients is significant.
Yeah.
So I think that's I'm always looking at, we've got to earn our keep. So
Sure.
but we earn our keep on the scaling, and one of my favorite things also is helping scale an organization. So I think probably our sweet spot is taking an organization that's in the $1 million range, taking it up over 3 to 4 million. So I think that's sort of a sweet spot as well.
Yeah. I think you and I both really love the startup growth phase of anything.
Yeah.
Like we love that energy. We love that messiness in some ways, for both. I like the scaling because the relationships you're building with clients are just so true and deep, and there's a high trust level that you're in it together. Campaigns are a little bit more frenetic and like, "Ooh, we got to get this going," and there's a lot happening, but you've got to learn quickly how to adapt and how to shift.
Yes, you do. There's an agility that's needed there. Yeah, like I was saying, they don't always go to plan, the campaigns, but
No, but so far so good for us. I feel like we've done all right as Kaci helped a few orgs get where they wanted to be, which is ultimately the goal. And maybe talk a little bit about that. Like even though we do have some long-term clients, that's not always our goal. Our goal is not always to just keep them forever. Can you talk a little bit about, just coming in for a season and what this idea of fractional development really looks like?
Yeah, I think we're bridging that gap that is painful, as you were describing earlier. So like one way to bridge the gap is to bring in somebody like Kaci to bridge that gap of not having a development director, and so we can come in as a fractional director of development and serve within the organization part-time and at the fraction of a full-time director of development, and often really just to fill that gap for 12 months, 2 years, till the organization's stable and can hire. And so that's happened with a number of our clients where we've kind of come in intentionally, and often it's been running a campaign, but intended outcome is at the end of the campaign that we can help onboard a director of development for the organization. So that's worked well, I think. And often the CEO or executive director, you can see the kind of the worry lines and the exhaustion, and just coming in is really, I think that's one of the things that I get a lot of satisfaction from, is coming alongside a leader and just helping them carry the load and just seeing that work time and again. So I think there's something in our model that really works in the way that we come alongside. What is it that you think where we add a lot of value?
Yeah, I think for us, like, it's really important to note that it's just not you and I that make up Kaci. So you and I might be the ones talking to the clients and filling that fractional director role, but the reality is we have a really robust team behind us. So writers, grant writers and researchers, tech geniuses, admin geniuses, there's a lot of people behind us that, though we say you're hiring a fractional director, you're really getting a team of 12 really highly talented individuals coming alongside, getting to know your organization and participating in that with you. So you're kind of getting a 12 for one deal when you hire us, and everybody's sort of really gifted in what they're doing. So I think that's a piece where I think it's really beautiful to be able to offer that. So they don't have to go hire a graphic designer or a grant writer or whatever. We bring that all to the table. And so I think that's a piece where we can often just say to an ED or a CEO, oh, we got that. We can do that. We have that capability on our team. And it's not an extra cost to them. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I didn't see us doing, for example, is implementing new CRMs or
right.
databases. And we've got great team members that are working on implementing that and doing digital fundraising and copywriting for all of that as well. So yeah, it's been really fun to see the different ways that we've been able to come alongside our clients and kind of broaden our offering and just bring amazing people on the team. So grateful for all the team members we have. And Nadia, you spend a lot of time connecting with all of our team. So I'm grateful.
Yeah, I love that part. I think in this day and age, again, having a company like Kaci that's so flexible and can work in all sorts of spaces and places is a lot of fun, and definitely was a value add when I came on the team. Grateful for that. And now our team's got us doing a podcast. So here we are. Who knew 3 years ago that this is where we'd finally be. So.
Well, speaking of the podcast, are there some episodes that you're looking forward to? We haven't really talked about this or planned it all out yet, but what are you looking forward to talking about?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I'd love, a couple of things. One, to talk a little bit about, some of the clients, have some of our clients come on and just chat about the work they do and our work together. We work with some incredible leaders and people. That sounds like a lot of fun. Some best practices, like honestly, I could have just used like 3 or 4 bullet points when I was 23. Even when I was in my 40s and running a global ministry, I mean, it would have been helpful just to think broader than I was. And so just quick lessons, what are some quick things that we can implement or you can implement in your nonprofit to level up? I think if we can offer that to folks, I think that would be great. And I'd love to have some of our team members on here and have them talk about what they do at Kaci and what they offer. What about you?
Those sound like really great episodes. Well, I want to give away some secrets. Like they're not really secrets, but best practices, as you mentioned. So how to run a campaign, how to scale your organization, how to work really well with your major donors and build that major donor pipeline. Strategic planning. What are some best practices? What's happening in the sector right now around strategic planning, and how are we doing that? And we're aligned with a partner organization around strategy and a strategic framework. So looking forward to talking about that and maybe having our partners join us on a podcast as well. So there's a lot of different ways that I look forward to engaging. Thanks for joining us. We're learners as we go, and we're glad that you're listening with us. And we look forward to connecting with you again. And feel free to visit our website at kaci.io, kaci.io. Talk to you soon. Bye.